So a few weeks ago, Rick Song, the Persona Identities CEO, called me out for fear-mongering. And so I made an entire comprehensive video going over exactly all of the problems with Persona and pointing out their major controversies over the last year or two. Since then, I've been eagerly waiting for Rick Song's response because he seems to be pretty eager to respond to everybody who's criticizing his company except for me. I pointed out 5 different situations where Persona was caught for having dodgy security issues, and in fact, one of them was even mentioning a lawsuit that they're involved in. Despite me calling Rick out over and over again on YouTube and Twitter after he said I was fear mongering by criticizing his company, he is now actually ducking and he's not responding. So I actually have a message for him today. Rick, I understand that I might not be relevant enough for you to, have seen my last video. And I know that I don't have as much money or influence as you, but I still want to go ahead and call you out today because I feel like you are being incredibly disingenuous. And it seems like people are afraid to call you out now because you're pulling this nice guy act and you're trying to crack jokes with people. So my problem with Rick Song is he is on his Twitter right now as we speak, replying to tons of people who have criticisms for his company. He actually claimed that they're rolling out something new with Persona that's going to be even more secure in terms of your privacy. And most of the time when someone is tweeting at Rick about the problems with Persona, he's actually going ahead and replying to them. So maybe Rick will just talk this up that, this deep humor guy is some irrelevant weirdo who just wants my attention or whatever. But I'm just noticing that you're going ahead and actually replying to other people who are criticizing you and are even saying like, hey, you might not agree with everything we have here, but we would love your feedback on our approach, right? Here's someone quoting something that Persona has said, and then Rick, tweeted at them again, and we've been working on it. Would love to get your thoughts. Here's somebody who replied to one of Rick Song's Persona updates and actually just said, hey, if Rick is concerned about identifying humans, where's a real profile of his face? And then he says over here, click my banner and check behind his profile picture. So if you click this banner right now, his real face will actually be behind this icon. So he's over here cracking jokes with people, seeing people who are criticizing him or whatever, but I feel like he's purposely dodging my video because I feel like he doesn't have any actual counterpoints to it. So as you guys remember, he actually called me out for fear mongering because I said that Amazon was using Persona as their age verification vendor. And he was just like, oh, actually, it's not age verification, it's ID verification. So he was basically nitpicking semantics and trying to act like my point wasn't valid because I said age verification instead of ID verification. Dude, I was talking about the fact that it's weird that Amazon needs an ID if you go ahead and buy a shirt from them. Some people are getting asked to show an ID for doing like random clothing purchases and stuff. I was talking about how that was weird and how they were working with Persona, even though Persona has been identified as shady basically. And he got really upset with that. And he said I was fear mongering. So I was like, okay, Rick, so if I'm fear mongering, let's go ahead and go over your company's major controversies and let's see if you can give me a good reply. So here's a short little recap of all of the controversies that Persona has been involved in recently. So they were doing a secret experiment with Discord saying if you are located in the UK, you may be part of an experiment when your information will be processed by an age assurance vendor. The information you submit will be temporarily stored for up to 7 days, then deleted. All the details are blurred. So that was instance number 1 where Persona and Discord worked together to go behind our backs to store our information because Discord said in their original post that none of the information would actually be stored. Your age would be verified and that would be it. They wouldn't need to keep your information at all. So that was shady piece of information number 1 about Persona. And then Persona also had their whole exposed interface displaying on a US government systems notification saying this is a US government system operated by or on behalf of a general services administration. There's a Persona logo right there. So you guys know that they're involved. It was really shady and everyone was like, okay, well, this is, something piece number 2 of Persona is this whole interface is being exposed on some random government website. And remember, this is supposed to be the company that we're all supposed to trust with our information or ID age verification information or biometric data, birth certificates, things like that. Okay, so that's not great, but that's just 2 things, right? Well, okay, I have more, like I said, and I even made a joke in the video where it's DJ Khaled when you need him because I got another one. They were also working with OpenAI to store all of your information as well, and they were allegedly sending your user data to the US government. Rick has tried to dispute this, but he hasn't actually provided any evidence to show that he's in the right. So researchers discovered Onyx on Persona's government server matching ICE's $4.2 million AI surveillance tool, where they were giving people risk scores across 300 plus platforms. For example, if you say something bad about ICE, then your risk score would be really high and they would be more inclined to look at your information. And they were also working with LinkedIn to send your face and other personal data to a global network of trusted third-party data sources. They were getting so much information from you just from doing a little check on LinkedIn just so you have a better chance of getting a job. In a 3-minute identity check, Persona collected all of this from a certain user: full name, passport photo, selfie, facial geometry, national ID number, all this information just from a little 3-minute check. That is how much information information that Persona has about some people who are actually going ahead and using them as their identity verification service. LinkedIn was getting access to a bunch of that information as well, and all of this information was getting sent to government databases, national ID registries, consumer credit agencies, utility companies, mobile network providers, and postal address databases. All that information was just getting sent everywhere, and that is what is happening when you are going ahead and using Persona. And they are also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, involved in a lawsuit as well, where they are being sued by plaintiffs for collecting, storing, and using facial geometries from selfies during driver registration without proper consent. And I believe this court case is still going, as Persona is still being investigated currently for having dodgy security issues. And also, again, there's more. Discord themselves, and I even mentioned this in the video too. I know Discord themselves are shady and they've lied about a lot of things, but they also mentioned that Persona did not meet their bar in terms of doing everything on device as Persona agreed that they would do. Rick did go on Twitter and make a statement that Discord was lying about this, but again, there's so much information suggesting towards Persona being shady. 5 different sources have accused Persona of being shady and misusing your information, so that's why I was calling Rick out. You say that I'm fear-mongering, but I just went ahead and showed you line by line exactly why I and just people in general have an issue with your company, and yet you were still able to produce a reply to me. When I made a tweet about Persona where I did not at Rick Song at all, I was just giving my opinion on Persona and IDH verification on Amazon being weird, he was able to find my tweet the same day, even though he doesn't even follow me, and then he says, yeah, you're going ahead and fear-mongering. So let me get this straight here. You can find that tweet on the same day where I didn't even at you at all because you are that much of like a vigilant person in terms of how people are talking about your company. But now that I've made an entire video response to you where I called out your company, told you exactly what's going on, now all of a sudden it's crickets and it's been 3 weeks and you haven't replied yet? I don't know, Rick, it just makes me feel like you don't actually have a response to what I have to say, and you can't actually dispute any of the things that I've said about your company. Again, as I mentioned in my first video to you as well, I didn't even do any of that research. I didn't like break any of those stories. I'm not some like news person or something like that. I was just simply expressing my opinion about Persona based on all of the evidence against you guys. Again, as I mentioned in my video, 5 different sources accusing you guys of being shady, including an actual lawsuit in court. But hey, because you guys are launching Relay, now everything is okay, it just seems really weird, like Rick's behavior. And as I showed earlier in the video, Rick is actually actively on Twitter, actually replying to people who have issues with Persona, but for some reason, I'm the only one he's not able to reply to. And again, as I said earlier, Rick, you can go ahead and play the card of like, I'm irrelevant and you're the rich CEO or whatever. You don't have to pay attention to me. That's fine. But again, it just seems really shady on your behalf that there's an entire video explaining line by line everything that is wrong with your company, but you just choose to ignore it and you're going ahead and replying to other people. Rick, if you don't want to reply to the video and you feel like it's not worth your time or whatever, you can just go ahead and say it and I'll just move on. But when you go ahead and call me out for fear-mongering, it makes it seem like you want some type of conversation. And now that I've given it back to you with full evidence, it just seems like now all of a sudden you're not interested anymore. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I am far from the only content creator that has issues with Persona. Schlepp has also made tweets about Persona as well, saying over here, before you do the Roblox age check, it's worth noting that with Persona, the company handling the verification is currently being sued over how it manages data and their privacy practices. I am far from the only YouTuber who has an issue with you guys, but again, it seems like you are very selective in terms of your responses to people, and only the people that are giving you criticism where you feel like you can reply to them in one tweet, those are the only people that it seems like you think are important enough to reply to. So, okay, fair enough. You're the big CEO, you have all the power, you can do whatever you want, but I just have a huge problem with ID age verification, and I think that you guys as an ID verification vendor have done a horrible job with user security. I've called you out for it, and it seems like you don't want to reply. So, all right, Rick, I'll give you one last chance. The ball is in your court. As I mentioned to you before, I have an entire 11-minute video breaking down exactly why I have problems with your company with evidence of me showcasing all the research done about you guys. So if you want to go ahead and finally clear your company's name, Persona, go ahead and reply to that video, but I'm pretty confident that you won't because I feel like you don't have an actual reply to it. I said this to Rick in a recent tweet as well. I said, I'm telling you, people are going to keep distrusting your company until you clear up all the controversies it's been through. I made a video response to you about Persona's issues that you have yet to reply. We're all waiting on. Ball's in your court, Rick. We're all waiting on you. So let me know if you're going to reply or not. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the situation in the comments. Persona's CEO Rick Song seems to be dodging the video that I made about him. Please leave a like in the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. See ya.